Alex Harrison stood at the large window of the Earthship Endeavour, looking at the massive alien vessel floating in the darkness of space. The ship belonged to the Zaltorians, a powerful alien race that had conquered many star systems. Alex felt tired. For 3 months he had tried to make peace with these aliens, but things were getting worse, not better. The Zaltorians were tall beings with hard shell-like skin and multiple arms. Their faces had moving parts that clicked when they spoke. Humans found them hard to read and even harder to trust. Alex turned away from the window and walked back to the conference room where his team waited. The lights were dim and everyone looked worried. "They're not going to agree, are they?" Linda Morris asked. She wore the uniform of Earth Space Force with medals showing her high rank. Her short gray hair framed a face lined with worry. "I don't think so," Alex said, sitting down heavily. "They keep asking for more. First it was the mining rights on Jupiter's moons. Now they want us to leave our outer colonies completely." Jack Wilson, a thin man with glasses and nervous hands, looked up from his computer tablet. "The latest reports from New Mars are bad. The Zaltorian ships have the colony surrounded. Food supplies are running low." "And what about the civilian ships they attacked near Saturn last week?" Linda added. 300 people dead, and they call it a misunderstanding." Alex rubbed his tired eyes. He was 52 years old and had spent his life working for peace between different worlds. He had helped make treaties with the people of Alpha Centauri and even the difficult cloud beings of Epsilon Eridani. But the Zaltorians were different. They didn't want peace, they wanted to win. "We have one more meeting with them in an hour," he said. "I'll try one more time to make them understand that humans want peace, but not at any cost." The team spent the next hour going over their notes and preparing their final offer. It was generous, perhaps too generous. Earth would give up mining rights in 2 disputed areas and allow Zaltorian ships to use human jump gates without paying the usual fees. In return, all they asked was for the Zaltorians to pull their ships back from the human colonies and sign a 10-year peace treaty. When the time came, they walked through the connecting tube that joined the 2 ships. 4 guards in Zaltorian armor met them, their weapons clearly visible. This was not how peace talks usually began. The meeting room on the alien ship was too warm for humans and had strange smells that made Alex's nose itch. The Zaltorian delegation sat across a wide table. Their leader, Ambassador Zikatarn, was larger than the others. His outer shell had markings that showed his high rank. "We are here to hear your final position," Zikatarn said. His translation device made his voice sound flat and emotionless. "Have you decided to accept our terms?" Alex leaned forward. "Ambassador, we have prepared a counteroffer that we believe is fair to both sides." He explained the human proposal, clearly and simply. As he spoke, he noticed the Zaltorian delegates making clicking sounds to each other, their way of having private conversations. When Alex finished, Zikatarn's mouth parts moved in what humans had learned was the Zaltorian version of a smile. It wasn't friendly. "Your offer is rejected," the alien said. "It seems humans do not understand their position. You are a young species. You have only been traveling between stars for less than a century. The Zaltorian Confederation has existed for over 2,000 of your years." The ambassador stood up, towering over the humans. "Here are our final terms. All human colonies beyond your home system must be abandoned within 30 Earth days. Your ships will stay at least 1 light-year away from any world claimed by the Confederation, and Earth will provide us with all the rare minerals we request at the amounts we set." Linda Morris stood up, her face flushed with anger. "That's not a peace treaty. That's a surrender document." "Call it what you wish," Zikatarn said. "Those are our terms. If you refuse, we will take what we want anyway. Our fleet is already in position." Alex tried one more time. "Ambassador, surely we can find middle ground. A war would hurt both our peoples." The Zaltorian made a gesture that showed disrespect. "It would hurt yours much more than ours. You have 3 days to send your acceptance. After that, we begin. With your colony on New Mars." The meeting was over. The human team was escorted back to the tube connecting the ships. They walked in silence, each lost in their own dark thoughts. Back on the Endeavor, the team gathered in the secure communication room. The walls here were specially designed to block any listening devices. "That's it then," Jack said quietly. "They never wanted peace." Linda pounded her fist on the table. "They think we're weak. They think we'll just roll over and give them whatever they want." Alex didn't speak right away. He was thinking about all the people on the colonies, millions of humans who had built new lives on distant worlds. He thought about Earth, too, and how a war with the Zaltorians might eventually reach their home planet. "There's one more option," he said finally. The room went silent. Everyone knew what he meant. "Project Prometheus," Jack whispered. "Are we really considering that?" Project Prometheus was humanity's darkest secret. For 15 years, the best scientific minds on Earth had worked underground, developing a weapon based on strange physics found in alien ruins on Europa, Jupiter's moon. The project was only meant as a last resort, a final option if humanity faced extinction. Alex had been one of the few diplomats with knowledge of the project. He had prayed he would never have to use that knowledge. "Send the message to Earth Command," he said, his voice heavy with the weight of the decision. "Tell them diplomacy has failed." He touched the neural implant behind his ear, activating its secure channel. Speaking clearly, he said, "Authorization code Omega-73. This is Chief Diplomat Harrison. Peace talks have failed. Request immediate activation of Project Prometheus." As he spoke the words, Alex felt a deep sadness. He had spent his life building bridges between different peoples. Now he had just ordered the creation of a weapon that might change the galaxy forever. "What happens now?" Linda asked. "Now we leave. Quickly," Alex said. "We need to be at least 2 light years away when they activate the device." Jack looked pale. "Will it really work? The tests were only simulations." Alex looked out the window at the massive Zaltorian ship. "For humanity's sake, it has to work. Because if it doesn't, there won't be any humans left to care." The Endeavor's engines began to power up. Soon they would jump away from this place and head toward safety. But Alex knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what it was capable of when pushed too far. Dr. Susan Campbell had not slept in 36 hours. Her eyes burned as she stared at the computer screens inside the Mars research base. Around her, 20 other scientists worked without stopping. They all knew what was at stake. The research base was built deep under Olympus Mons, the largest mountain in the solar system. The red rock above them provided protection from both attacks and spy satellites. For 15 years they had worked here in secret, hoping their work would never be needed. Susan brushed her brown hair from her face and took another sip of coffee. At 45 years old, she was the lead scientist of Project Prometheus. She had given up a normal life on Earth for this work. Now she wondered if that sacrifice would save humanity or destroy it. "Status report," she called out to the room. One by one, her team leaders responded. "Power systems at 98%. Quantum core stable. Targeting systems online. Delivery vessel prepared." Susan nodded and turned as the door to the main lab opened. Alan Davis walked in. He was the director of the entire project, a tall man with a serious face and gray hair. Behind him came 2 military officers wearing the uniform of Earth's Defense Force. "The order has been confirmed," Alan said quietly. "We are to deploy Prometheus immediately." The room went silent. Everyone had hoped this day would never come. "How bad is it?" Susan asked. "Bad," Alan said. "The Zaltorians have rejected all peace offers. They're demanding that we abandon all our colonies. Their fleet is already moving into attack positions." Susan closed her eyes for a moment. Then she stood up straight. "All right, we've prepared for this. You all know what to do." The team moved quickly to their stations. Years of drills had prepared them for this moment. But drills were different from the real thing. Now they were about to use a weapon that broke the basic rules of physics. Project Prometheus wasn't a bomb or a laser or any normal weapon. It used the strange physics discovered in alien ruins found on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. The ruins were left by a species that had disappeared thousands of years ago. The technology was beyond human understanding, but after years of study, Human scientists had learned enough to build something new and terrible. Susan walked to the main control panel and entered her authorization code. A large screen lit up, showing a countdown clock. "The delivery vessel launches in 40 minutes, she said. "Final checks, everyone." While the team worked, Alan took Susan aside. "Are you sure it will work as planned?" he asked quietly. Susan hesitated. "The simulations all came out positive. But this technology, now we don't fully understand it. There are always risks." "And the containment? Will it really only affect their ships?" "We've designed it to recognize and target only the specific molecular structure of Zaltorian technology," Susan explained. "Their ships use quantum crystalline materials that are very different from ours. The effect should stop at exactly the calculated distance." "Should," Alan repeated. "That's not very comforting." "It's the best we can do," Susan said. "The alternative is losing everything." The intercom buzzed. A voice came through, slightly distorted. "This is Captain Olivia Reed of the Hyperion. We are ready for loading." In orbit above Mars, the special ship Hyperion waited. Unlike normal warships, it carried no weapons of its own. Its only purpose was to carry Project Prometheus to the right coordinates in space. Susan picked up the intercom. "Captain Reed, this is Dr. Campbell. We'll be sending up the quantum core in 30 minutes. Is your crew prepared for the mission?" "We are," came the reply. "Though I won't pretend we're not nervous." "You have every right to be," Susan said. "This technology, it's beyond anything we've used before." As the time for launch approached, Susan's team carefully moved the quantum core into a special container. The core was surprisingly small, about the size of a basketball. It glowed with a pale blue light that seemed to shift and change as you looked at it. The container would protect it until it reached the Hyperion. "Loading team to the elevator," Susan ordered. 4 scientists carefully lifted the container and carried it to the large elevator that connected the underground base with the surface. Susan and Alan went with them. As they rode up through the red rock of Mars, Alan spoke quietly. "I keep thinking about my grandchildren back on Earth," he said. "Will they understand what we've done here? Will history judge us kindly?" Susan had no children of her own. Her work had been her life. "If we succeed, they'll be alive to judge us," she said. "That's what matters." The elevator reached the surface. Outside, the red landscape of Mars stretched to the horizon. The sky was darker than Earth's, and stars were visible even during the day. A transport ship waited to carry the quantum core to the Hyperion. As they loaded the container, Susan looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, the Zaltorian fleet was preparing to attack human colonies. They thought humans were weak, a young species not worth respecting. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The transport ship lifted off, carrying the quantum core to the waiting Hyperion. Susan and Alan returned underground to the control room. A new screen had been activated showing the Hyperion in orbit. "Captain, Reed reports successful loading," an operator called out. "The quantum core is secure. They're preparing to depart." Susan nodded and turned to Alan. "Now we wait." On the main screen, they watched as the Hyperion moved away from Mars, beginning its journey to the calculated deployment point. This point had been chosen carefully, far enough from any human worlds to ensure safety, but positioned where the Zaltorian fleet would have to pass. "Sending final targeting data to Captain Reed," Susan said, typing commands into her console. "The Hyperion will reach deployment coordinates in 17 hours. Across the room, a young scientist named Paul Jones was watching sensor readings from Earth's deep space network. Suddenly he called out, "Dr. Campbell, we're detecting multiple Zaltorian warships moving toward New Mars colony. Their weapons are powered up." Susan's face hardened. "They're not even waiting for their deadline." She pressed the intercom. "Captain Reed, the Zaltorians have begun their attack. You need to hurry." "Understood," came the reply. "We're pushing engines to maximum, but we still need 15 hours to reach the coordinates. Then we have to hope New Mars can hold out," Susan said grimly. The next 15 hours were the longest of Susan's life. Reports came in of Zaltorian ships attacking the outer defense stations around New Mars. Earth ships were fighting back, but they were outnumbered. Finally, the Hyperion reported reaching its position. "We're at the deployment coordinates," Captain Reed's voice came through. "Preparing to activate the quantum core." Susan took a deep breath. This was the moment that would change everything. "Captain Reed, this is Dr. Campbell. You have authorization to deploy Project Prometheus. May God help us all." Captain Olivia Reed stood on the bridge of the Hyperion, looking at the stars through the main viewport. She was 39 years old, with short black hair and serious eyes. In 15 years of service in Earth's fleet, she had never faced a mission like this one. "Status report," she called to her small crew. "All systems normal, Captain," said her first officer, Sam Baker. "The quantum core is stable in the holding chamber." "Engine output at maximum," reported Carla Jones, the chief engineer. "We're moving as fast as this ship can go." The Hyperion wasn't built for battle. It was a special vessel designed for one purpose: to deliver Project Prometheus. It had strong shields but no weapons. Its only defense was speed. "How long until we reach the deployment coordinates?" Olivia asked. 3 hours, said Greg Howard, the navigation officer. "But there's a problem. Our sensors are picking up Zaltorian ships ahead, a lot of them." Olivia walked to his station and looked at the screen. She frowned. The Zaltorian fleet was massive, at least 50 warships moving in formation toward the human colonies. "They're not waiting for their deadline," she said. "They've started the attack already." "Should we change course?" Greg asked. "Try to go around them?" Olivia thought for a moment. Going around would take too much time. By then the colony on New Mars might be destroyed. "No," she decided. "We stick to our route. If they spot us, we'll just have to outrun them." For the next 2 hours, the Hyperion moved steadily toward its target point. The Zaltorian fleet grew larger on their screens. So far, the alien ships hadn't seemed to notice the single human vessel. Then the alarm sounded. "Captain, 3 Zaltorian fighters have broken formation," Sam reported. "They're heading straight for us. I think they've spotted us." "Increase speed to emergency levels," Olivia ordered. "Divert power from life support if you have to. We need to reach those coordinates." The Hyperion surged forward, its engines glowing bright blue. The Zaltorian fighters followed, gaining ground. "They're within weapons range," Sam warned. "Preparing defensive shields." "Open a channel," Olivia said. "Let me talk to them." A moment later, the communication system crackled to life. Olivia spoke clearly and firmly. "Attention, Zaltorian vessels. This is Captain Olivia Reed of the Earthship Hyperion. We are on a peaceful mission and request safe passage." There was a pause, then a harsh voice answered. The translator converted the clicking Zaltorian speech to English. "Human vessel, you are entering restricted space. Turn back immediately or be destroyed." Olivia exchanged glances with her crew. They all knew turning back wasn't an option. "I repeat, we are on a peaceful mission," she said. "We carry no weapons." "Scan complete," the Zaltorian voice replied. "Your vessel carries an unknown energy signature. Explain." "Research equipment," Olivia lied. "For studying space phenomena. You will power down and prepare to be boarded for inspection." Olivia muted the channel and turned to her crew. "How much longer to the deployment coordinates?" 30 minutes, Greg said. "But those fighters will be on us in 5. Olivia made her decision. "Reroute all power to the engines and shields. Ignore their hails. We make a run for it." The Hyperion shot forward with a burst of speed. The Zaltorian fighters opened fire. Blue energy beams flashed past the ship. "Shields holding," Sam called out. "But they won't last long under direct hits." A violent shake ran through the ship as one of the energy beams struck the rear shields. "Shield power down to 60%, Sam reported. 25 minutes to coordinates," Greg said. Another hit rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. "Shields at 40%, Sam called. Engine power dropping." In the holding chamber, Paul Garcia, the ship's engineer, worked frantically to protect the quantum core. Each hit to the ship sent vibrations through the sensitive equipment. If the core was damaged before they reached the deployment point, the mission would fail. "Engine cooling system hit," Carla reported from engineering. "Temperature rising." "Reroute. Coolant from non-essential systems," Olivia ordered. The Hyperion shuddered as another blast hit. A panel on the bridge exploded in sparks, forcing one of the crew members to jump back. "Shields at 20%, Sam said, his voice tense. "We can't take much more of this." "How long to coordinates?" Olivia demanded. 15 minutes, Greg replied. "But at this rate..." He didn't need to finish. At this rate, they wouldn't make it. The Zaltorian fighters were too fast, their weapons too powerful. Olivia hit the ship-wide communication button. "Paul, this is the captain. What's the status of the quantum core?" "Stable for now," came the reply. "But these hits are putting stress on the containment field." Olivia made a quick decision. "Can we deploy early? Not at the ideal coordinates, but close enough?" There was a pause as Paul consulted with the Mars base. "Dr. Campbell says it's possible," he finally replied. "The effect won't be as precisely targeted, but it should still work. We need at least 5 more minutes to reach minimum safe distance from our colonies." "You've got 5 minutes," Olivia said. "Everyone hold on." She turned to the weapons control station, normally unused on this ship. "Activate the emergency countermeasures." The Hyperion released a cloud of particles designed to confuse enemy targeting systems. It wasn't much, but it might buy them time. The ship raced through space, the Zaltorian fighters close behind. More hits struck the shields, each one weakening them further. "Shields failing," Sam shouted as a particularly hard hit rocked the ship. 4 minutes to minimum safe deployment, Greg reported. Another blast hit, this time striking the ship directly. The lights flickered, and for a moment the engines faltered. "Hull breach in Section 4, Carla called. "Emergency bulkheads closing." "Reroute all remaining power to engines," Olivia ordered. "Everything we've got." The Hyperion gave a final surge of speed. The Zaltorian fighters continued to fire, but several shots missed as they struggled to adjust their aim. 3 minutes, Greg counted down. "The Zaltorians are calling for reinforcements," Sam said. 2 larger ships are changing course to intercept us." 2 minutes. The ship shook violently as another hit landed. "Direct hit to the engine section," Carla reported. "We're losing power fast." 1 minute. Olivia opened the channel to the holding chamber. "Paul, prepare for emergency deployment." "We're almost there." "Core ready," Paul replied. "Containment field set for release." 30 seconds. The larger Zaltorian ships were now visible on the screens, moving rapidly toward the Hyperion. 15 seconds. A final hit struck the ship, sending crew members sprawling across the bridge. "We're here," Greg shouted. Minimum safe deployment range achieved. Olivia hit the communication button. "Deploy now." In the holding chamber, Paul activated the release sequence. The quantum core's containment field opened, allowing the strange energy inside to flow outward. There was no explosion, no flash of light, just a silent wave of energy that spread out from the ship, invisible to the naked eye. "Deployment successful," Paul reported. "The wave is propagating at calculated speed." On the bridge, the crew watched their sensor screens in tense silence. The Zaltorian ships continued to approach, seemingly unaffected. "Did it work?" Sam asked quietly. Before Olivia could answer, something strange happened to the Zaltorian fighters. They didn't explode or break apart. Instead, they simply stopped. Their engines went dark and they began to drift aimlessly in space. The larger ships approaching them also slowed, then stopped completely. All signs of energy from their weapon systems faded away. "My God," Olivia whispered. It worked. The wave continued to spread outward, reaching ship after ship in the Zaltorian fleet. Like dominoes falling, each vessel went dark as the wave passed through it. "Captain," Sam said, his voice filled with awe. "The sensors show the wave continuing to spread. It's affecting every Zaltorian ship it touches, but passing harmlessly through our own vessels." Olivia stared at the screens, watching as humanity's last desperate weapon changed the course of the war in a single moment. "Send a message to Earth Command," she said quietly. "Project Prometheus deployed successfully. The Zaltorian fleet is neutralized." News of what happened to the Zaltorian fleet spread quickly across human space. On the main command center on Earth, Defense Director Catherine Winters stood before a large screen showing the remains of the alien armada. She was tall, with dark skin and gray hair cut short. At 60 years old, she had seen many battles, but nothing like this. "Play it again," she ordered. The screen showed recordings from Earth ships near the edge of the battle zone. The Zaltorian vessels, once powerful and threatening, now floated silently in space. They weren't destroyed, they simply stopped working. Their lights were off, their weapons silent, their engines dead. "Remarkable," said General Frank Cooper, standing beside her. "No explosions, no destruction, just neutralized." Catherine nodded. Project Prometheus worked exactly as designed. The quantum wave targeted only the unique crystal technology that powers Zaltorian ships. Our own vessels were completely unaffected. And the aliens themselves? "Alive," Catherine said. "Their life support systems are the only thing still functioning. We've already sent rescue ships to pick up survivors." The room was filled with military officers and government officials. Many looked relieved, but some seemed troubled by what they had witnessed. "We've received reports from all sectors," said a young officer at a nearby console. The effect spread through the entire Zaltorian fleet. Over 300 ships neutralized, from their smallest fighters to their largest command vessels. "What about civilian casualties?" asked a woman in Urias, a business suit, the representative from the Earth Council. "None reported," Catherine replied. "The wave passed harmlessly through human ships, stations, and colonies. It only affected Zaltorian technology." The room fell silent as everyone considered what this meant. Humanity had just demonstrated power, beyond anything seen before in the galaxy, and they had used it with restraint, stopping the enemy without destroying them. "We've received a message from the Zaltorian High Command," the communications officer announced. "They're requesting an emergency meeting." Catherine smiled grimly. "I bet they are. Tell them we accept." Far away, on the damaged but still functional Hyperion, Captain Olivia Reed was helping injured crew members. The ship had taken heavy damage during the battle, but they had completed their mission. "Captain," called Sam Baker, her first officer, "you need to see this." Olivia followed him to a viewport. Outside, Earth rescue ships were approaching the dead Zaltorian vessels. The alien ships looked strange now, dark and lifeless, drifting slowly through space. Some were spinning gently, pushed by the last thrust of their engines before they died. "It's almost sad," Sam said quietly. "Better than destroying them completely," Olivia replied. "At least this way, they have a chance to reconsider their choices." A message came through from Earth Command. Olivia listened, then turned to her crew with a smile. "Good news. The Zaltorians are asking for a meeting. They want to talk." On Mars, in the deep underground lab, Dr. Susan Campbell and her team monitored the data flowing in from space. The quantum wave had spread exactly as their models predicted, affecting only Zaltorian ships and leaving everything else untouched. "The containment is holding," Susan said, studying the readings. "The wave will dissipate at the calculated boundary." Alan Davis stood beside her, watching the screens. "We've done something incredible here," he said. "Something that will change everything." Susan nodded. "The question is, what happens next? We've shown what we can do. How will the Zaltorians respond?" The answer came 3 days later. In a large meeting room on the neutral space station Unity, human and Zaltorian representatives gathered. The station orbited halfway between Earth and the nearest Zaltorian colony. Alex Harrison, the diplomat whose failed peace talks had led to this moment, sat at the table facing Ambassador Zakatarn. The Zaltorian looked different now, less confident, more cautious. "Let us be clear about what has happened," Zakatarn said, his translation device converting his clicks and whistles to English. "You have deployed a weapon that disabled our entire fleet without harming our people. A weapon we cannot understand or defend against." "That's correct," Alex said calmly. "We tried to avoid using it. We wanted peace. Your species is full of surprises," the ambassador said. "We believed you were young and weak. We were wrong." "We are young," Alex agreed, "but not weak. We simply prefer cooperation to conflict." The Zaltorian made a gesture that humans had learned meant serious consideration. Our scientists have examined the affected ships. They still cannot explain what happened. The crystal, matrices that power our technology, simply stopped responding. As if the laws of physics changed, but only for our equipment. We discovered something in the ruins on Europa, Alex explained. Technology left by an ancient species. We didn't fully understand it either, but we learned enough to create Project Prometheus. And could you use this weapon again? Zikatarn asked. On our homeworlds? Alex looked the alien directly in the eyes. We could. But we won't. Unless you force us to. We want peace, Ambassador, real peace, not surrender. The room was silent as the Zaltorian delegation discussed among themselves, their clicking speech too fast for the translators to follow. Finally, Zikatarn turned back to the humans. We have new instructions from our leaders, he said. We are authorized to discuss a genuine peace treaty, one that respects both our peoples. Across human space, people gathered around screens to watch the news. On Earth, in the crowded streets of cities, on far colonies like New Mars, and on space stations orbiting distant planets, humans held their breath as they waited for the outcome of the talks. After 3 days of negotiations, Alex Harrison stood before cameras to make the announcement. Today, we have signed a peace treaty with the Zaltorian Confederation, he said. All human colonies will remain under our control. A neutral zone will be established between our territories. And most importantly, a scientific exchange program will begin, allowing both our species to learn from each other. He paused, looking directly into the cameras. The decision to use Project Prometheus was not made lightly. We revealed a power that cannot be hidden again. But we used it with restraint, showing that humans can be both strong and merciful. Today marks a new chapter in our history among the stars. In her lab on Mars, Susan Campbell watched the announcement with her team. When it ended, she turned to Alan Davis. So what now? She asked. What do we do with this technology? Alan smiled. We do what humans have always done with powerful discoveries. We find a way to use it for more than war. The quantum physics we uncovered could revolutionize space travel, energy production, maybe even medicine. The Zaltorians want to understand it too, Susan said. And we'll work with them, Alan replied, cautiously. But together, we might learn even more than we could alone. Susan looked at the quantum core, still glowing with its strange blue light. What had been created as a weapon might now become something more, a tool to bring species together rather than drive them apart. Outside the lab, the red landscape of Mars stretched to the horizon. Somewhere up there, human and Zaltorian ships were no longer firing at each other. Instead, they were beginning the long, careful process of learning to live together among the stars. 1 year had passed since the day humanity changed the galaxy with Project Prometheus. On a new space station built between Earth and Zaltorian space, humans and aliens worked side by side. The station was called Harmony, a symbol of what could be achieved through cooperation instead of war. In a large laboratory on the station, Dr. Susan Campbell stood next to her former enemy, a Zaltorian scientist named Rector. They were both studying a small container holding a tiny piece of the quantum core. Your people created something truly remarkable, Rector said, his translator making his clicks and whistles into smooth English. We had studied the ruins on Dalter 7 for centuries, but never understood the principles you discovered. Susan smiled. We got lucky. The ruins on Europa contained different information than those your people found. Together we're learning, much more than either of us could alone. In the year since the peace treaty, scientific teams from both species had been sharing knowledge. What had begun as careful, suspicious exchanges had grown into genuine collaboration. The Zaltorians brought their advanced knowledge of space travel and materials science. Humans contributed their understanding of quantum physics and biology. Across the room, Alex Harrison watched the scientists work. Now serving as Earth's ambassador to the Zaltorian Confederation, he had helped build the framework for cooperation between the species. It is still difficult to believe, said Ambassador Zaktarn, standing beside him. A year ago, our fleet was preparing to conquer your colonies. Now we build together. Wars often end with one side destroyed, Alex said. We found a better way. Because you showed both strength and mercy, the Zaltorian replied. You could have used your weapon to destroy our ships completely, killing everyone on board. Instead, you disabled our technology while preserving life. It was a deliberate choice, Alex explained. Project Prometheus was designed from the beginning to stop your fleet without killing your people. We wanted to end the war, not your civilization. The two diplomats walked through the station, passing more mixed teams of human and Zaltorian workers. In some areas, the environment was adjusted to Zaltorian preferences, warmer, with different air composition. In others, it was set for human comfort. Special transition zones allowed both species to move throughout the station. The new propulsion system is almost ready for testing, Zikatarn said. Using principles from Project Prometheus, but for travel instead of warfare. This was the most exciting project on the station, a new type of engine that could move ships through space faster than anything before. It used the same quantum physics that had powered the weapon, but redirected to bend space in a controlled way, allowing for travel at speeds that once seemed impossible. On Earth, in the main government building in Geneva, Defense Director Catherine Winters sat in a meeting with the Earth Council. The mood was far different from a year ago when they had faced extinction. The scientific cooperation with the Zaltorians is proceeding well, she reported. But there have been unexpected developments. What kind of developments? Asked the council leader. We've been contacted by 3 other spacefaring civilizations, Catherine said. The Nelvarans, the Japari Collective, and the Hyven all want to establish diplomatic relations. Because of Project Prometheus, one council member said. It wasn't a question. Catherine nodded. Word has spread about what we did. These species were watching, waiting to see how the conflict with the Zaltorians would end. Now they want to talk, preferably as friends, not enemies. From unknown newcomers to a major power, another council member mused. All because of one weapon we hoped never to use. Not just the weapon, Catherine corrected. But how we used it, we showed restraint. That impressed them as much as our technology. Back on the Harmony station, Susan and Rector were finishing their day's work. The piece of quantum core glowed faintly in its container, still holding secrets neither species fully understood. I have a question, Rector said as they stored their equipment. Your leaders could have kept this technology secret after the peace treaty. Why share it with us? Susan considered the question carefully. Because some discoveries are too important to keep to yourself, and because we believe working together will take us further than working alone. Later that evening, Susan met with Alex in the station's observation room. Through large windows, they could see both Earth and the nearest Zaltorian colony world, tiny dots of light against the blackness of space. I just received word from Earth Command, Alex said. The diplomatic mission to the Nelvaran homeworld has been approved. They want you on the team. Susan looked surprised. Me? I'm a scientist, not a diplomat. You're both now, Alex said with a smile. You understand Project Prometheus better than anyone, and that's what they want to learn about. Are we going to share the technology with them too? Perhaps eventually. First, we need to know if they can be trusted with it. Susan looked out at the stars. When we found those ruins on Europa, we thought we'd discovered a weapon. But it was really something more. A key to unlock a new future. The station hummed with activity around them as humans and Zaltorians continued their work. In orbit nearby, a test ship was being prepared for the first flight with the new quantum drive. If successful, it would reach Alpha Centauri in days instead of years. We've been invited to send representatives to a gathering of spacefaring species, Alex said. Something like a galactic council. Earth has never been invited before. Because we were too young, too new to space travel, Susan said. Exactly. But now they're curious about us. The young species that defeated the Zaltorian fleet without destruction. The people who turned a weapon into a tool for peace. In a ship approaching the station, Captain Olivia Reed watched the Harmony grow larger in the viewport. After the battle, she had been given command of Earth's newest exploration vessel, the Discovery. Its mission was to establish contact with other civilizations, not as conquerors or the conquered, but as equals. "It's impressive what can happen in a year," said her first officer, Sam Baker, standing beside her. "And this is just the beginning," Olivia replied. "The quantum drive will let us go further than we ever dreamed. There are whole regions of the galaxy waiting to be explored." As her ship docked at the station, Olivia thought about how close humanity had come to disaster. They had stood on the edge of extinction, with only a desperate weapon as their last hope. Instead of ending in tragedy, it had opened a door to something new. The story of Project Prometheus would be told across the stars for generations to come, not as a tale of war, but as the moment when humanity proved they belonged among the stars, not through conquest, but through wisdom, showing that true strength comes from knowing when not to destroy. And as ships from Earth ventured outward, carrying human and Zaltorian crews working side by side, they carried that lesson with them to the waiting galaxy.